Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be setting up my budget planner for the month of March, and I'm using a monthly kit from the Truce Paperie on Etsy. I purchased the March monthly kit and I also added on another set of transparent stickers. I'm starting with the monthly overview and this page is really simple to set up. I'm adding the top banners and then these green strips that cover up the design on the page. With the top banners, I still want the days of the week to show, so I try to line up the sticker with the very top edge of the page. Sometimes that's really easy and I get it on the first try, and sometimes it takes me a second to get it right. Then I will be using the scallop sticker to cover up the days that are not in March. And for the monthly overview in general, I will be using this page to write down all of the transactions in the 5 categories that I'm keeping track of. On the sidebar, I am just writing my little key to myself because I do like to color code the 5 different categories, which are groceries, dining out, gas, household, and unbudgeted. Moving on to the very first page of March, this is where I like to write my budget for the month. There is a tab on the page so I'm able to access it very easily. As you will see throughout this video, I do not have the best handwriting or penmanship, but for this month I did try to at least make my font a little bit bolder. In general, I was just more comfortable with the really thin writing that I had in my previous months, but I do want to work on my hand lettering and try to improve, so hopefully by the end of the year maybe my hand lettering will be better. Something I definitely need to work on is to try to slow down when I'm writing. I always tend to want to rush through it, but I feel that if I slow down it would probably help. But either way, I am happy to have these stickers as a bit of a distraction and a pretty border around my writing. At the top of my budget, I am writing all of our income for the month. We have 2 paychecks for my husband's work, a check from our rental in Washington, and my husband's disability check. The other day, my boys were drawing in my husband's notebook, and I noticed that PJ drew lines very similar to this, and he told me that he was working on his budget, and I thought that was really sweet. Our income doesn't change too much from month to month, but I do like to write estimated and actual because sometimes my husband will get refunded for any business expenses. Underneath our income, I will list out our variable expenses on the left and our fixed expenses on the right. I mainly do this so that I have enough room for all of our expenses, but it's also nice to know which expenses are not going to change and which ones fluctuate from month to month. I am using the ruler as a guide to attempt to keep my list straight, and this month I actually added therapy to my budget, and technically it's not a fixed expense, but I did add it to that side just because there was more room to do so, and I really like having this space at the bottom to write down our potential savings and our actual savings. As far as the numbers for our budget, most of these numbers are the same as February. The 2 changes that I made were for dining out and for gas. In February, I allotted $3.50 for dining out and $4.50 for gas, but I knew that for this month we would probably need more for dining out and less for gas, and the main reason that I did this was because my husband was planning to travel to San Diego, and he is the one who primarily uses gas. He commutes to work, so for that week that he would be gone, he would not be spending money on gas, but he would probably be spending more money dining out. Now, I do want to mention that I did set up my budget before any type of self-quarantine started, so I did not keep that in mind, but I will say that we did have a reward certificate from Costco, and we were able to use that towards a lot of frozen food that we did purchase for preparing to stay home for an extended amount of time. I still haven't decided whether or not I'm going to include that in my budget in terms of my groceries category. In my mind, it could go either way. The next page is the March notes page. I love this beautiful flower art, and it's really nice having these strips to cover up the design on the page. For our March goals, I have been having trouble coming up with financial goals for our family, but the main idea is that we're just trying to improve little by little each month. For this month, I did write the days that my husband will be in San Diego. I wrote down the day that we are filing our taxes, a birthday that we are celebrating, and St. Patrick's Day. And below the important dates for the month, I am also going to be writing down our tax return as well as my credit score for the month. On the page on the left, I am going to be using this page for my calculations. I like to calculate twice a month for each paycheck to make sure that we have enough money in the account for all of the bills that will be coming out in that pay period. For this box at the very bottom, I do like to keep track of all of our debt, and that includes my student loans, our 2 cars, and our 2 houses. It's really nice and encouraging to see these numbers go down every month. Now I am just adding the rest of the deco stickers. Moving on past the monthly overview, I am starting with the weekly check-in. I like to divide the month into 4 weeks, and usually every Sunday I go through all of the receipts that I have collected over the week. I add them to my monthly overview page, and I calculate everything that I have for each category. And as I mentioned before, the categories are groceries, dining out, gas, household, and unbudgeted. And I write these categories for every single week. The next column will be for how much was spent. And then how much is remaining in the overall budget for that category. And then I like to calculate how much is remaining per week for that category. I just use the remaining balance and I divide it by however many weeks are left in the month. For the month of March, the first 3 weeks will be from Sunday to Saturday, and the last week will have 3 extra days. For week 3 and week 4, I don't really need to calculate how much is remaining per week. So in those spots, I will be able to write down any notes that I have to explain why we are over or under budget for any particular category. This was especially helpful in February, so we will see how March turns out. The page on the right will be where I write down my spending log. This is where I write down any orders that I place online. It is the perfect place for me to keep track of how much I spend each month, and also where I can track what orders have been shipped and delivered. Whenever I get an email that says an order is shipped, I come to this page and mark it as shipped. This has especially been helpful for orders that I have placed from Australia or out of the country that take a little bit longer to get here. On the next page, I am going to be starting with the transaction log on the left-hand side. This is the opposite of what I did last month. And the main reason that I am switching things up this month is because it was really difficult to write on the sinking funds page when the coil was in the way. So throughout the month, I will be able to write on my transaction log that are specifically for the sinking funds. And while I am doing my results video, I will be able to write down all of the amounts and totals a lot easier. On the previous page, I wrote directly on the paper because I was using the transparent stickers, but these stickers are not transparent, so I will be whiting out the hexagon as usual and then placing the sticker down on paper before writing on the stickers. The writing definitely comes out a little more bold when you write on the stickers, but I like the way it turns out either way, and I love that I get to use both versions with this kit. So like I said, this page is for the transaction log, and this is going to be where I write every expense that has to do with sinking funds. So whenever I buy clothes or diapers, I will write it on this page. For our sinking funds, we currently have 15 different categories, and I am probably going to be adding another one before the month is over for home maintenance because things just keep popping up here and there around the house. And I was originally putting those expenses in our household budget, but at this point it is leaving no room for actual household items. So I am probably going to be adding that this month, but that will be shown in my results video. As far as setting up this page, I am starting with the category, and then the next column will be the beginning balance, which will be the numbers that are taken from the results from our February sinking funds. The next column will be any money that I add to this category, and in the results video, I will be filling out how much we subtract and the ending balance for each category. I am starting out by filling in all of the numbers for the beginning balances. All of the categories with parentheses means that those are in the negative. And there are certain categories that I have already figured out how much we're going to put in for each month. So for the 10-year, we are adding $300 every month. And I already know that we aren't going to be taking anything out of it. So I already wrote down all those numbers. Jumping down to medical, we add $150 every month, and for Invisalign, this will be the last month that I'm adding $500. That is supposed to be for the deposit for Invisalign, but of course, with everything that's going on, that is going to be delayed. We are adding $50 to car maintenance, $300 to preschool, $50 to diapers, and $75 to dill. That is for any care package we like to send to my father-in-law. Those are the categories that I have already set each month, but I am trying to stay around $2,000 for all of our sinking funds. So I do look at the rest of the categories separately to see if we need to add more or if we can add less to make up for the categories that may need more. Holidays is actually one that I did decide to do $125 every month, and for gifts I am adding $100. I was debating on adding more because we do have a couple birthdays in March and we have one early April, so I wasn't sure if I would be spending a lot in that category, but I decided to just stay with the 100 and I don't mind if it goes negative. 100 for entertainment, and if there happens to be any special dinners, I will use that category. 20 for makeup, 20 for clothes for my husband, 20 for clothes for me, and 40 for clothes for our boys. I originally added $130 to travel to kind of make up for what was spent. And then when I added everything up, we were $20 shy of $2,000, so I added that to travel as well. And at the very bottom, I am adding the totals. And that is it for our March budget planner. I know I have mentioned in other videos that I'm not a huge fan of green or yellow, but this kit really won me over. These colors go really well together and I just love all of the floral details. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.